first, Anna-Riitta Sulander from Naturpolis will have a short introduction to the subject, and also she will have a wrap-up after the webinar just to get everything together. And after that, Santeri Halonen from University of Oulu shall give you an overview of resilience. Then Christina and Adela from ATS will tell you something about new business models. And finally, Janne Tienpää from Naturpolis will tell us some business cases according to resilience. So please, Anna-Riitta, floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I hope you can all see me and hear me. Nice to meet you, everybody. And just a moment, I will share my screen. So you will have something to look at the same time that I'm speaking. And you can see the shared screen, right? Yes, very good. Okay, just a few words about myself. So my name is Anna-Riitta Sulander, and I work as a project manager at Naturpolis. I work and live here in Kuusamo, Finland, so greetings from the north. The work that I do is connected to international tourism, so that is my field. But yeah, today's topic is resilience, and oftentimes when we hear this concept, it is connected to something maybe negative, for example, like crisis. We all know and remember the COVID crisis that hit the world, and it was like referred that we have to be like resilient and to in order to cope the crisis, the negative thing that faced the all of society. But I think we should also think of resilience in a more like a milder way, so to speak. So, for example, development and global trends or even local trends, they bring us to situations where we have to be resilient. For example, the development of technology. When there's new technology appearing, new applications or whatever, so that requires us to adapt ourselves into the new situation. But yeah, we also need to be resilient in our everyday life, in normal situations where we what we face in everyday basis. For example, at work, when we work with our team or with our colleagues, we are facing obstacles or some kind of situations where we have to find a balance. Or should we go this way or that way, or maybe some third option that we don't know, not just yet. So it's like there's like a different levels of resilience that we face in our life. And also these levels, they are connected to like every individual, but also like companies, larger geographical areas, and even the whole world as such. But when we are facing different kinds of change in our surroundings, it's always good to know that change is always a challenge. We have to adapt ourselves into the new situation, improve ourselves. Like the way that we used to do things, it probably is not. It's maybe not good anymore in the change situation. And if the situation has been, for example, a crisis of some kind, then we have to think of ways that we can even function in the new situation or recover from what has happened. And this changing of things, it gives us the opportunity to learn new skills that help us thrive in what we do. And yeah, I think resilience is essential when we are living in this changing world. It is a success factor that it like divides uh, organizations or people, or when you are moving in different levels to that who can cope the changes that happen around us. And it's not always easy because we live in the world of human beings, and some people are good at something, and some people are good at something else, so we have to find a balance. And when it comes to organizations, it is good to find like a power in that fact that we are different kind of people with different kinds of gifts. So change is a challenge, but change is also an opportunity to learn new, to improve ourselves, and to build success in what we do. But yeah, that was my very short introduction to the subject, and I'm looking forward to all the speeches that we have today. So thank you.
Thank you, Anna-Riitta, for your introduction. Next, we have Santeri. So please, floor is yours. You can introduce yourself and your research area. So please.
Thank you so much for the invitation to come and share something about the overview of resilience. It's actually such, as mentioned before, such a topical and important topic, not because of, well, it has been around for a long time, but when we look at the world around us, and especially the past 3 years, it's been constant change and crisis after crisis. And the interest for how to cope and how to recover and how to even turn those challenges and crises into opportunities are some perspectives to resilience, which we are going to talk today. So my name is Santeri Halonen, and the reason I'm really passionate about the topic. Can you see my presentation okay?
Yes, perfect.
That's perfect. That's perfect. So the reason I'm so passionate about the topic of resilience, I'm actually doing my PhD research on entrepreneurial resilience, and that's partially because it's been such a topical theme for a long time, but also my personal perspective. I've been recovering a very like acute and serious illness, and actually going through a lot of the steps personally, I've come to find that actually being able to enhance and share about the topic and how to develop the resilience is one of the key factors for everybody, but especially for entrepreneurs. In research, we can find and we can see that it's one of the key skills, key traits, key things to have in order to be able to be successful in the changing world. So I was asked to share from the researcher's perspective what the research says about resilience. A little bit about my background. As I mentioned, I'm a doctoral researcher at the University of Oulu, and but in addition to that, I'm working full-time in EU-funded projects. And currently, I'm living in central Finland, where we're helping micro companies to deal with all the resilience issues. And we are seeking and helping, supporting them to build and enhance resilience. I titled my topic for today, the why resilience, what is resilience, and the overview from the research perspective, but also because I've been working hands-on with the tourism sector and with small entrepreneurs in Finland that are they are having, for example, cottages, or they are having something to do with travel and tourism. I'm sharing some of the case studies which I have been part of, and how we have helped them in practical terms to become more resilient in their work. Before joining to academia and these development projects, I've been working at the University of Oulu for 3 years now. I work as a financial planner and also consultant at Deloitte. So I have also background from the larger corporations, but the past 3 years I've been focusing on the micro companies, which the institute I'm working at University of Oulu is focusing on. And just if you have any questions, I can't actually see any comments because my presentation is here. Just please do interrupt me and we can deal with the questions while we're moving on. And just let me just finish, say the slide, and then I can just answer questions. And please do have those and have comments. A little bit about my background. I just shared that I'm working and I've been working with different development projects in different parts of Finland. And the common factor for those have been to work with micro companies and help them to become more resilient and develop their business. I just joined University of Oulu March 2020 when the COVID hit. And all those entrepreneurs, everybody was going crazy, as we can remember. Luckily, that's just a memory in the past, but I feel like I've been working only in the crisis time the past 3 years. So the term of resilience and how it actually practically works has become almost like a second nature for me. So I'm really hoping I can bring some ideas, some insight, and some actually what I'm really interested about as well is some practical ideas what the companies, what the enterprises are dealing with when it comes to resilience, but also some ideas how we can support the enterprises and companies to develop their resilience. I just compiled a couple of things I really would like to focus on today and just talk about the overview of resilience and what it is, what the research says about it and why it matters, and share some real life examples. And what is really interesting, I hope we can have a little bit discussion the last 10 minutes about how enhancing resilience can serve as a tool to help touristic small and medium-sized companies in different parts of Europe. And I can share some examples from here, from Finland. So what is resilience? It feels like the past years has been really, as you can probably recognize, a buzzword or really familiar term for a lot of people are using the term. What we find from research, it's actually, even though we use it in everyday life a lot, actually finding a definition what resilience is harder than we think. It has so many different angles and sides and approaches, as it was mentioned really well in the introduction we just heard. So it has many faces, many sides of the coin, and there is no one, I feel, definition that would cover all of them. That's why in research we have different discussion streams and different angles from where we can approach the concept of resilience. Probably in the most simplest form, resilience is ability to recover and after a crisis come back to the status quo, the normal situation. We can, for example, imagine a tennis ball. When you just squeeze it, it will come back to the normal shape quite after. However, if you squeeze a tomato, it will just burst and it just will go rotten or just be destroyed. But if you actually put that on the field, after some years there might be some new things that comes out. So that's another, not the way it used to be, but something completely new. Probably the third really practical way to think about it, it's if you can imagine a like, for example, sea, and there is something that is above the water, and when the waves come, it just goes up and down based on the crisis, but it doesn't sink. So those are some ways to actually just spark your thinking about how we can think about resilience. When we go to our research, I'm writing my first PhD paper about the resilience development of an micro entrepreneur. And what I've been really researching the past 6 to actually almost a year, I've been through all the literature, what talks about the resilience development and the process in the context of entrepreneurship. And here are some of the findings that the literature states about resilience. So as I mentioned, it's the ability to overcome adversity or traumatic experience and adapt and change them quickly and return to the normal. It's really important to realize at this point also that this is not the everything that all that resilience is. It's many other things as well. It's also being able to foresight and anticipate something. So it's not just surviving or trying to survive, but there are so many other aspects related to it as well. The researchers found that resilience is a key entrepreneurial success. It's one of the crucial things that an entrepreneur or anybody has to have in order to be successful, because there are so many things happening in the world and outside impacts and just crisis taking place, so that actually being able to, regardless and no matter how many things there are going on, we can actually keep the vision right and go forward. We are resilient. Therefore, developing resilience is essential for entrepreneurs to sustain their business. That's why we have the past couple of years, we have had so many resilience development projects funded by EU, because there has been so much outside pressure and crisis going on for the companies. And that brings me to the next key point. Resilience is not something you are born with or something you either have or you don't have, but it's rather a dynamic developing process that you can develop. So how do you develop, how the resilience develops? Oftentimes it's the past experiences. For example, if you've gone through a personal crisis in your life, when you reflect it, there are several points that you can learn from that and get more mature. That's why when we get older, the resilience also on an individual level increases and becomes stronger, because we learn from the past experiences. And that's one of the key points to when it comes to developing resilience. It's not something that you just learn from school or from me, but you have to live through it, through your life experiences. But it's good to know and really important to point out that resilience is something that develops and everybody can develop. It's not a skill in that sense that you have it or you don't have it, but you can develop it. Resilience on an organizational level can be developed by renewing and developing entrepreneurs' activities and business. And that's what we have seen a lot in the companies. I've been working probably like 60 or 50 companies throughout these years, and seeing the small steps they can take in order to become more resilient. And shortly, I'm going to show what are the components based on research or the factors of resilience that we should have a look at if we want to develop or see the resilience being developed. And that's what's really interesting when we are dealing with business development, and when somebody asks, okay, resilience sounds good, why should we care about it? Why should I as an entrepreneur to care about resilience? In research, it's been found there is a correlation between organizations' resilience and its success. And also organizational resilience is based on, especially in the small companies, it comes from the entrepreneur's resilience, or in larger organization, the leadership is the key factor for the entire organization to be resilient. As I mentioned, it's a very vast and multiple faceted concept. So just shortly, I'm going to touch on what are the approaches to resilience that the literature it has been found when going through a lot of research on resilience. It can be a characteristic of an entrepreneurial firm, or it can be behavior in enhancing organizational resilience, for example. or it can be resilience in the context of entrepreneurial failure. For example, if an entrepreneur goes to bankruptcy, there needs to be a certain amount of resilience in order to get back together and even get over the fact that the company went to bankruptcy, without even speaking about starting again. From my view, the most interesting approach to resilience is the process of recovery and transformation. So the way I see resilience as a researcher is it's something you recover from a crisis or a difficult situation or life crisis or something. But I also believe that there has to be the sense of, or the process of transformation, so that you don't go back to the same thing that you are doing. Like there is something renewal, something is transforming. And this is just an overview or ideas about the different sides that the research have found about resilience. This is from my own research. It's quite a small text, so I'm just highlighting the key points. So there is a lot of different research done on entrepreneurial resilience. In my own research, I have found that when we talk about how the resilience develops, there are three primary domains or approaches: process, capability, and resources. It's found in the research that the entrepreneurs, the people who have more resources before the crisis, that can be capital, network, competence, any sort of capital or resources, are more resilient when the crisis hits and after the crisis. So what is a good way to build one's resilience is actually build resources. As we have been talking about, networks, relationships are a key part of resilience and being resilient. What that practically means and has meant in a lot of the company work I've been doing is encouraging and identifying the networks and the personal relationships that entrepreneurs have. We have organized a lot of gatherings where we just meet up with other entrepreneurs and see how the network builds organically. And so one of the things that especially single or entrepreneurs, solo entrepreneurs were lacking was the connection to other people in the COVID time. And so one of the just very practical, useful way to build resilience for now and for the future is actually to pay attention and build the connections and the networks and the personal relations people have as entrepreneurs. When it comes to organizational resilience, there has been a lot of research on that as well. And that's just for curiosity, the resilience indicators on organizational level. One of the things I already mentioned is leadership. When the leadership is as it's supposed to be, the organization is more resilient. We also talk about innovation, creativity, and a proactive posture. And that's one of the second thing I really would like to highlight about resilience is the fact that what we often see with the entrepreneurs is that they are so focused on the current situation, dealing with everyday business, that actually anticipating or thinking what's going to happen, say, in 2 years' time, that's something they are really lacking. But taking the time to actually see to the future and anticipating, see what the megatrends are saying, what seems to be happening in the world, really helps to build a resilience, not only on organizational level, but also on an individual level. I mentioned already the networks and the readiness to change, and all the other aspects that have been found in research that boost or enhance organizational resilience or are vital for an organization to be resilient. So from the development perspective, what we have been doing the past 2 years with organizations is to actually go through the different areas and help them through training, through mentoring, through any kind of knowledge share, reflecting to develop those areas in their organization that are currently lacking something or could be improved. And while developing a one aspect, we can see that the resilience of the organization or the company increases well. So if we talk about only resilience development and what the resilience is, it's really just vast and large things. So we need to point out some area under the umbrella of resilience and start developing that and help companies to develop that. Especially it comes to be true with small businesses and entrepreneurs. They are often, as we know, very practical, and things and the improvements needs to be concrete. When I've been talking about entrepreneurs just saying that resilience, and they're like, what do you mean by it? What are the benefits for me now if I want to develop my resilience, and what are the practical steps, the tools? As we will see soon, for example, competence development is such a important part. If you want to be able to not only adapt but use the opportunities that the changing world, let's say digital world, all the trends and changing customer expectations and desires and wants, if you want to be able to meet those preferences, you need to probably, most likely, find a new way to use the skills, develop your company. And for that, you need new competencies and new skills. So in very simple terms, in that part, developing your resilience is actually competence building, developing a competence or skill. So far, anticipation, seeing what the megatrends are, what's going to be happening in the world, not tomorrow, but in the longer run, as well as competence development. From my point of view, when I've been doing research and been working hands-on, talking one-to-one with entrepreneurs, those seems to be one of the some of the things that are really important, and often they are not addressed enough. And we need to really bring it, developing resilience to practical terms, which is, those are examples of that. A little bit more from the studies and the research. There are individual factors, but there are also situational factors. And when those two interact, the resilience most oftentimes strengthens and becomes stronger. If you only have the individual factors, it's not on its own enough, but we need the context, we need the situational factors as well to support. We probably have a saying that nobody can survive alone. Even if you were the most resilient person, if you have nobody, if you don't have an entrepreneur colleague, if you don't have any other networks or help, in time you will get tired when crises happen and things don't go as you plan. So we need the individual resilience factors, which I will shortly come to, but we also need the situation of the outside help. And as I mentioned already, the resources we have outside of us. When we combine all those things, the resilience is outcome. This is just a short idea about the ways to develop resilience in a company, in an organizational context. We have the anticipation part. Then we have the coping and adaptation. Just take an example when for example, the COVID crisis hit. You need to observe what's going on and accept that there is a major crisis happening. But also you need to reflect and learn. And learning is in the core of building resilience. I could even state that building resilience, developing resilience is learning and applying it, reflecting it, and not doing the same thing again, but actually renewing the way you think, renew the way you do business, renew your business model, renew your products and services. That is something we really saw 2020 in the COVID crisis, that when everything was shut down, the entrepreneurs really needed to develop new ways to do their business. For example, restaurants, when they were closed down in some countries, they had to develop new ways to just be able to do the business. And there was a lot of like takeaway restaurants, and that sort of a business model increased. There are some other examples as well coming up. A little bit more about when we can talk about the organizational, but also the individual level of resilience. And when it comes to the individual level, in research, we have found several resilience factors. By resilience factor, I mean something that can either, when it's working well, it can enhance and makes your resilience stronger, but it can become also lessen or decrease your resilience if that part of the combination is not working. For example, there are in the interpersonal category, there is human capital. If you have a good teamwork, it will make your resilience stronger. But if you're lacking some areas, or you don't have motivation, the resilience is going down. So there are the both sides. But the research have found the interpersonal area, the interpersonal and contextual, as we a little bit actually talked about already, the outside, what the context is. Because when we talk about resilience, we also always need the context. And here's just going deeper on what all these factors are, what they consist of. So for example, person who have a, let's say, higher stress tolerance are more resilient, or the ones who are really stressed about things. So this sort of personal things that help, or person who is really goal committed, and regardless of the situation, he or she or has a very clear vision. What is he or she is doing? That always helps to keep the focus when the times are hard. And just these sort of factors that the research has found. Also, the values and the beliefs play a role when we talk about the resilience factors. That what are the things that make somebody resilient? Also, the interpersonal. This is the thing I really want to touch on a little bit more because this has become a very big thing when talking and developing the companies and being actually one-to-one mentoring, which I have been to many entrepreneurs already at the time. And this is one of the things that often comes up, especially with the solo entrepreneurs, is the importance of the networks, whether it be informal or formal relationships. One of the most we have had working with entrepreneurs, and we have had workshops, different types for different themes, for social media, for well-being at work, anything we can imagine of. Interesting thing is, the most successful has been the one that was just a networking lunch. We got only over 30 entrepreneurs to come to a meeting when it has been difficult to get 2 people to attend a workshop with an other topic. But the networking and actually informal, just getting together and talking, learning from each other, sharing their struggles, has been very, very popular among the entrepreneurs. And it really highlights the fact that resilience is really a lot about the relationships, doing life together and just helping each other out and it really just proves or shows that the research is actually true. And I'm sure we have all really noticed that when dealing with companies. The third one is the contextual. Are there resources available? When there was struggle in the economy, did we have some government support or support from relatives or support from the bank or something that increased the resources when we really needed it? Also, of course, the industrial things, rules and regulations and the culture impact on the resilience. At least in the Finnish business context, bankruptcy is considered a no-no. That's almost like or at least it has been a end of life. Whereas in probably in American context, it's not the end of the world, but it's just the opportunity to learn and do some and do it again better. So this kind of cultural things also has an impact on resilience. Let me check at this point. Are we doing okay there? Have you had any questions so far when we go a little bit more to the practical side, or do I just keep going?
No questions in the chat, so anyone? I think that then we can just continue.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, just please do interrupt if there is something you want to go more deep on. So when we talk about the overview of resilience, these are in the research some of the milestone or key points that we want to find from what resilience is, why it is so important, and what constitutes what resilience is made of. I'll just shortly now, as I remember, I'll just go back to this because we're talking about resilience. It's often because the concept has really evolved through different research fields, and in the past some decades or years it's been in the entrepreneurial context, but it's a concept in many research fields. So one of the things that when we talk about entrepreneurship is the side of psychological side of resilience, which is really a huge area of its own. But when we think about when there are difficult situations and challenges in business or in life, what are the key resources, mental resources, psychological resources a resilient person has? In the research, we can find that somebody who has a clear idea of the purpose he or she has, or has a very goal-oriented, or has a very strong sense of that this needs to be done. This is more important, just my life. The psychological side of resilience, what happens inside of our head, is very crucial, because it actually goes, everything else depends on it. And in the resilience factors, we can see the positive emotion, flexibility, proactive personality, this sort of personality traits and things that help one to be resilient. The good news is that also those factors, even though some people might have them stronger, can be developed. And that's something very important when we help companies and entrepreneurs to also deal with the psychological side. And the fourth really important, actually the basis for all to be resilient as on an individual level, is the health and well-being. And that's what we have been doing with entrepreneurs a lot. Just health and wellness trainings as a group, and seeing how it might be hard to go work out on your own, but when you have the group pressure or the group encouragement, it becomes easier. So just the basis for all the resilience on an individual level is your own well-being, and how you can, how do you support it? How do you keep developing it, and how do you keep healthy, eat, sleep? We know these basic needs we have. So that was just something I just wanted to highlight also, to get more broad or comprehensive idea what the resilience is made of. When we come out from the resiliency factors and from the individual idea, outside the context and the outside world, we are aware of the megatrends. Finnish institution of Sitra has done a megatrend compilation, or just compiled megatrends they find being relevant at the moment. And the reason why these are related so closely to resilience is, the first thing is being able to anticipate, see, forecast, just ponder, think what the future holds, what the future will be like, and what implications, what impacts does it have to my business, to way my customers, my clients behave, what they want, what they need. For example, out of these 5 main mega trends, for example, if there is a mega trend that people are paying more and more attention on well-being challenges, and there will be more challenges. What that practically means for somebody who is an entrepreneur is, there is a likelihood that the demand for well-being services and products with the aging population will increase in the future. We have been working with entrepreneurs from different fields, also from the travel and tourism, and actually taking 1 hour and sitting down and just seeing, okay, these are the megatrends, these are the likely things that will take place and occur. What does it mean from my company perspective? What changes should I do to my processes, or should I develop a new product or service, or how do I react? How do I respond to these changes? Or do I just want to stay the way I am? What we see is, a lot of time, if you don't change, you will be out of business at some point in time. And one of the key ways to develop and being resilient is taking the future seriously, and just being able to anticipate and adapt your operations at the moment, and plan them, have a strategy, so that when the future comes and takes place, you are prepared, and you might even be 1 step ahead than your the other entrepreneurs on the same field. And that kind of anticipation is, I just want to highlight it, is very important part of being resilient and staying resilient. And oftentimes, especially with the micro companies and small companies, we often get this excuse that we don't have time to do that. We have so many things on hand which we need to deal with. And that's one of the things, as a business developer and as a researcher, I believe we can bring to help them to just come together and take the time to have a look to these things, and really in practical things, what it means for my business, for my company, for the industry. When we talk about travel and tourism, for example, the environmental change, I will actually just shortly come to the trends that are relevant to or topical for travel and tourism. So actually, I probably jump into that because it really brings this even more practical. So when I was looking some of the trends, or I wouldn't call them mega trends, but trends on tourism, it's funny that English term tourism industry. That's just because obviously it's not industry, but it's called industry. But anyways, in the travel and tourism, these are some of the identified trends that are already taking place and will have more importance in the future. And only just by looking at this, when you together with other entrepreneurs and companies on the field, you can see many changes that you probably should take in order to be relevant in the coming years. And we have all experienced these, and actually probably most of us have used these and be part of this trends that are taking place. For example, staycations, just staying in a local or your hometown and staying in a hotel and just getting something different than your home environment. And I believe this probably started taking place more after the COVID, when people wanted to something different and experience something totally different than the home environment where we all have been so much during the lockdowns. But these sort of terms and ideas and trends that are emerging, if you are prepared to serve a product or something that helps us when people are asking for these sort of things, that's being resilient, using the opening opportunities, being able to offer something that the customers are wanting to buy. And I think that's also core of entrepreneurial resilience. Sometimes when we hear the word resilience, we immediately might think like it's something you're recovering from a problem, you have had a crisis, and that's just a recovery idea. But as I mentioned in the first slides, there's also the transformation side of the recovery and being resilient. And that's, as a researcher and also business developer, for me that's the most exciting part, because oftentimes every time when there is a crisis, there are also new opportunities. And I think if you look at the history, a lot of the successful companies have been founded or started in the time of crisis, because when there's a crisis, there is also a huge amount of problems, and being able to solve those problems creates new business. And there are always people who are able and willing to pay for their problems to get solved, even though there is low tide in the economy. So that sort of seeing opportunities in the middle of crisis is also such a crucial part of being resilient, in my view. And these trends just offer a glimpse or just some ideas how we can use the changing trends to create new business and help the companies in the travel and tourism to create new business models, new services, new offerings. Before I move on, just to get even more context for the term and the concept of resilience, you can just think your past week or so, and just think some of the things where the resilience or the need to develop resilience, or any of the things that I have shared here, how does it show in your work? And have you identified ways how you can enhance the entrepreneurial resilience in your work? And I'm not going to ask you, don't have to share it now, but just to make it this wide concept more applicable and just relevant and concrete. Those are some of the things you can, while we just are using, I believe do you have 10 minutes? The rest of the time I have. Okay, yeah, I don't want to go over time.
Yeah. Actually, you have plenty of time still. So.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I have until
5:30, but there should be like 15 minutes for questions. But if you have presentation, so please continue as you like.
Okay, cool. About more the trends. For example, next time I will be having a workshop with entrepreneurs in the travel and tourism. These are some of the tools I can ignite discussion on, because when we are talking with entrepreneurs, it always has to have some very practical implication. They oftentimes, and it has to be business related. If there is more profit or money included, oftentimes, of course not always, but they are interested on how it impacts positively on their business. So using these as a tool or the megatrends to ignite the discussion and show the importance can be a way to help them to realize that resilience is not something just really abstract or not relevant concept. But when we bring it to more practical and get the context, the why should you be interested about the megatrends? Why should you be interested as an entrepreneur that the population is aging? And what changes could you do that you could offer and even create new business for them? So using these tools to ignite and spark not only discussion but reflection and new ideas, new business can be a tool which I have tried to use in my trainings as well, especially the megatrends, to just make them think and create time for this sort of reflection and planning. Not exactly sure if there's the most appropriate expression for this, but playing the resilience, using the opportunities, how and what can we do that we are not just helpless organizations or individuals that changes come and we can do nothing but to adapt and try to survive. That's part of it, but there is also the other side which, of the coin, which I mentioned in the beginning, is the survival, but also the transformation, using the opportunities, being one step ahead. And that's something also when it comes to the overview and the idea of resilience is really actually exciting thing. How can we use the opening opportunities when the crisis or any other challenge hits? And that's where it gets really creative. When we think about, of course, in the different parts of the world, for example, the changing climate shows more acute and more maybe severe. In the case of Finland, we have seen the increase on the temperature, and it's been the places where it used to be. We used to have a lot of snow. We have less snow in the winter time, and for some ski lift or those ski companies that offer services for skiing or downhill skiing has find it challenging to maintain the season for as long as before. And those kind of changes, which there's no way you can do anything, and can be really acute if it's hard to offer skiing services if there is not snow, at least in the traditional way. And therefore, finding well in advance other solutions to offer something that you don't go out of business is important. And sometimes you can find something very even more profitable than the one you used to be. So that's why being alerted and awake is so important, and using the opportunities what comes. So we are not to, and the enterprises, companies are not to only to survive, which seems to be kind of the discussion for a long time. It's been so hard. But there, at least in my experience, there have been many companies or some companies that have find ways to play the resilience thing and find new opportunities. And probably we all know that there are success stories, even during these past 3 years, that has been able to find something new, a new way to do business or new product, new service, new area. A lot of them are, for example, digitalization, when companies were offering such a offering for a small audience, small customer group. But the digital ways to do it through them, they were able to share and just get their business out for a larger audience. All these examples show that when there is a crisis, there is also opportunity, and using those, playing those is resilience. Building networks, building resources, innovating the business model, product and service development, and as I said, also already anticipating the future and the trends and what it means for my company. When we go back to the travel trends, here are some, I just put together some examples of how these trends have been used in the Finnish context. I'm quite keen on the travel and tourism industry in itself, because I on my free time we like to travel a lot and go to different places and see different hotels, and so I'm really keen on the topic. And as an example for the eco travel, we all have these, and you can think of this how it shows in your country. For example, this trend, eco travel, there is about to start a resort which is in the middle of Finnish forest, and is really about being eco-friendly. And they have actually turned that mega trend to be a asset, or the way they can attain or attract certain target group or certain group of people for whom the eco travel is a value, or they want to pay more for the company or the resort to be eco-friendly. And at least if we talk about like 10 years back, that's something I can remember. This was not a trend. It was some other things were taking place, but these new trends that are coming up and people are willing to pay, or any other we can think of, sustainability, what else, are things that if you don't have those, people are thinking they are not willing to use your services, or they are choosing somebody else. So just being there, being resilient on what the changes are is really important. This is opening actually just in a week's time, so it would be interesting to go and see what is it really like. But this is really happening in the real life. As I mentioned, I've been working hands-on. I live in central Finland with some of companies that are at the travel and tourism. And even though we have not primarily focused on one sector, there has been some companies that operate. They have housing, or well, mainly housing, and just summer cottages and accommodation, which they are offering as their core offer. So with those companies, it's been interesting to apply what the research says and see how those actually play out in the real life. But before I go to those local case studies, I've been working personally. Just wanted to ignite more thinking about the new models. How can a crisis create opportunities for new ways to do business in the travel and tourism? This is an example from a solo entrepreneur when he used to have tours in Finland, if I recall correctly. But when the COVID hit, he had to come up with something new, and he came up with this concept of roof walk in the industrial city of Tampere. And for him, all the inside locations were shut down, all the restaurants were shut down, and it was really hard to organize anything for more than 5 people. But he realized that actually doing this outside, when there are no limitation on the number of people, I believe, and that was highly successful. when he started it, and he was able to complete shift the way he used to do business really swiftly, really quickly. And these roof walks have been really popular ever since. So that's a classic example of seeing and utilizing a opportunity which opens up in a situation of or a time of crisis. And this is if you come to Finland. I haven't actually done this myself, but check it out if you come to Finland. It's at least locally, it's been really popular. So this is a big city. It's not just a tiny village so that you just walk in the middle of nowhere, but it actually brings you to the heart of the city. One of the interesting concepts from the early days, I recall, if I recall correctly, was innovation on the Finnish airline Finnair, when all the flights were just not able to fly and operate their flights, or they innovated this, that they brought the food that you actually get on board to the supermarkets. And you would think, like, who wants to eat airline food on their home sofas? But apparently that was very popular and successful, and they actually only did it for a certain amount of time. So just first, when I heard about this, I thought, oh, that's rather desperate. But now, after some time, when they got the results, it was really popular. And you might think, like, why was that? Did the customers want to experience something when they weren't able to travel, a taste of that at their home? But this is also a good example of adapting, being resilient in the time of crisis. And when you have to lay out a lot of people, at least try to come up with something you can use, not to have to shut down. This is probably true in a lot of countries in Europe, but the domestic travel increased, and some of the popular destinations in Finland, they had very successful years when, especially after the second COVID summer, or during the second COVID summer, they were highly successful because people couldn't travel anywhere. The domestic travel increased, and the ones that had invested in their travel and destination planning and operations were the ones that were able to utilize the situation that nobody was going abroad, but everybody was traveling in Finland. So sometimes the crisis creates opportunities that are not so apparent before the crisis takes place, and being able to utilize it, use it, requires that you have prepared if you can, and you are resilient to quickly change the operations in order to be able to offer for those that are your customers in the new situation. Virtual travel experiences. Apparently, these things also cost money. I haven't really done any of these, but just a example how innovative people can get. And now, when I actually looked for this presentation, a couple of those were kind of cool, interesting to do. And I can imagine when you cannot travel anywhere, you just are locked to your home. These must have been very nice for people to do and experience, even a little bit about what it's like to go abroad. I mentioned about the new ways to deliver services and food, new operating model, and that was a huge thing for restaurants when all the restaurants were locked down. And this actually ignited a trend, at least in Finland. The sort of restaurant type of food is now offered even more in the supermarkets, and something that hasn't really done before in that scale actually started taking place after crisis. This is one of the Finnish examples on how to actually a local example I've been working with, because it's official, it's on their website. I can share it. There is anything confidential about it, so I can actually use it as an example. how they have, as a travel or company, have developed their resilience. And I've been working personally with them and seeing the development path from the beginning, now the past 2 years. And there are so many aspects on the resilience development they have had. They have been developing their competence on several areas. They have been developing the way they offer their services. They have been developing their website and targeting on international customers even more. And for me, as a researcher, this shows how they have been resilient to the changing environment, changing world, changing customer expectations and preferences. And just by doing small steps, it doesn't have to be something huge at once, but small developing steps to the right direction that develop the resilience in the long run. And when dealing with this and discussing with them, we are developing the small steps, so small things, in order to be more resilient in the future. Building competence is a crucial part. So just a type of bringing the concept of resilience and resilience development on earth and on practical terms is to take those small development steps, small ways to improve and anticipate pace in the long run, and is in practical terms is resilience development. There's another example about the networks. These entrepreneurs are located in a remote area of Finland and very sparsely populated. And when I talked about the importance of building collaboration and the network, they are a classic example of sharing and helping out each other in order to create a offering for even for international customers that is interesting for them to if they are going to Lapland, actually to stop by and stay there. On their own, they wouldn't be able to do it so well, but when they are combining all their offerings and services and products together, they make a combination that is interesting for international audience, international travelers as well. And for me, when we reflect the theory what we talked about before about how the networks and collaboration resources are an important part of resilience in the travel and well anywhere. This is an example of that in practical terms. So when talking with these entrepreneurs, it wasn't my idea, obviously, but they came together with this new idea together. But it wasn't about, they didn't think they are developing resilience, but they are just they're developing business. And that's one of the points from my perspective as well, that resilience is not something that is a separate or different separate developing area, that we have one more thing that we need to develop or be aware of. But resilience by its very nature is very practical and very down to earth and very hands-on practical everyday thing as well. We as people, we as humans, organizations, entrepreneurs, we need resilience in everyday life situations. How do we react when somebody gives us feedback on something or comments on something, or something negative happens? We are in a traffic jam, or we are very tired. This sort of, it's very everyday practical term. So when we bring the concept of resilience to into practice, it's concrete, this practical from my view. When we talk about larger context, those have been examples of individual companies or a group of companies or that sort of collaboration. But actually also in a city level, on a regional level, resilience can be individual, it can be organizational, but it also can be related to a geographical area. And especially in a travel and tourism industry, that's often the case, that building regional resilience is really important, because in travel and tourism, no one company can serve everything, but we need collaboration. But in this case, there's an attempt to build a regional cooperation on recreational area in one city, and entrepreneurs are invited to develop services and offer them in one web page. That when a tourist comes, there's a wide selection of services and other products and services and offerings that can be chosen from, and this works in collaboration. I think this is a great example of building resilience for the companies, for the entrepreneurs, but also for the regional, the area. Lastly, we have already touched on this. What I think is important for us, for you, for anybody who is who is helping serving entrepreneurs and companies to become more resilient and being resilient. We have a set of tools we can use, and actually in the project I'm working, we are really paying attention on how to. We have a development program for business developers who are working on these government entrepreneurs super agencies who help one-on-one entrepreneurs every day and are sort of the governmental support for companies. And we are helping them to realize how important the resilience is, and there is a resilience training for them, which we are doing at the as part of the project. So that's for all of us a key question. What are the ways we can develop our own resilience, make it stronger, but also for our customers, help them build their resilience in order for them to be more able to recover from the challenges and the crises that are most likely to come up, but also use the opportunities for creating new business and on an individual level, on a company level, and even on a national level or regional level. And if there's something I would like to leave you with or make you think, which I'm sure you have already a lot during this project as well, is the practical ways to help your customers to recognize the importance of resilience and how they can utilize, how they can develop it in their business in a practical way. Key to this is also for us to be able to, by us I mean business developers and researchers, to develop other people's resilience or give the tools for them to develop their resilience, is to be aware of our own resilience and how we can develop it. The key thing when I've been talking with other developers is the understanding that one person doesn't or can't know everything, but we need other people. So actually the network, collaboration network competence, or having the understanding who is the one who knows about this topic? Who can I ask help when I don't know myself? So even in the business development, the collaboration networks are really, really crucial. To just bring these different ideas and concepts together, I've been talking about the anticipation and the megatrends, and resilience being something preparing and planning and anticipating, actually taking the time thinking what the future will bring is important. The network building the other resources, being aware and utilizing the new technology, and knowing what's happening there, and offering support and motivation and encouragement for the entrepreneurs, because a lot of them are working on their own, but actually just bringing the support for them also in a psychological level is important. It was sort of shocking to me to hear how many are dealing with all sort of like even like mental like challenges or high pressure, I would say. So working as an entrepreneur, and it's oftentimes it's more than just business, because we are whole entities as people. So being able to also support on those and see that the resilience has a lot to do. The foundation actually for being resilient individual is the health and well-being and psychological side, and being able to offer tools or even a way to be able to address those things. So as a business developers, we are in very, very responsible and challenging situations. The variety of things that are related to resilience and we should be aware of and be able to help with is quite wide, and that leaves us a good challenge. To close the presentation, we are not everybody, but a lot of in Finland are passionate about ice swimming, including myself. And just to close this presentation, would you consider this to be resilience or craziness? Hey, thank you so much for your attention, and please do have questions or comments if you have.
Thank you so much, Santeri. It was so interesting, and thank you so much for sharing some examples and some tools and some Finnish craziness at the end. I have done that. I have done that 3 times, but that's enough.
Do you have a travel visit to Finland? We could also actually probably, or you could go. You probably have tried it already, but.
Okay, anyone, any questions? Okay, there's hands up. Please, go ahead, Juan.
Hi, Santeri. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Thank you for your explanation. It's just really interesting, and just another element just to add to the main key, at least what I think is the main key of your presentation up to certain extent, that is working in network. I would say also that especially in places like Finland or Extremadura, and I think also Sibiu, as I don't know, almost 95% or 99% of the enterprises are really micro enterprises, not even SMEs in terms of European legislation. I would say it's really the key. I mean, for example, here we in Extremadura, we are helping the people from Tourism, just leading them a little bit to go into an association. I mean, because it's that any of them just can add so much to the whole group that if they just keep to their own, they won't do it. Also the same with birds and in many other businesses. And for the examples that you have shown us of how the people just may change or make some turnarounds in their businesses in terms of resilience. For example, I really found very interesting the Finnair just selling their food in the supermarket. But behind that, I may guess that they have, I mean, they have the infrastructure for the kitchens and so on, or the company working for them. But what they do have is what did they have was I don't know how to say it, just people from the marketing department that could, I suppose, interview people, make some focus groups and so on, just to see how the idea was going to be received by the market. My question is, in small companies, apart from what have you said about going step by little step, not making into big investment, would you say, is there any other key or element that we should take into account and especially focus them on in case they want to develop new lines in their businesses?
That's an excellent question, and thanks for the comments as well. So do you mean in micro companies?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, just in order to avoid them getting into even bigger troubles in case their main business or their old line of business is not going so well. They want to try something different. So apart from going step by step, any other element or any other key element to take into account?
Of course, one of the other things is doing the small steps and trying with small risks. That's obviously the one thing. But other thing that comes to my mind that we have been using a lot of in the projects. I don't know if that's the case in other countries, but in Finland there is opportunities to use, for example, students. They come to your company for a week or for a month and work on very specific problem. One example we have been using is that they can do a market survey or bring new ideas. Also, mentoring and getting some coaching from more experienced entrepreneurs could be a third thing we have tried with entrepreneurs, and actually getting feedback on that idea. Also, fourth thing that comes to my mind is if there are some financing that can help them to pilot the project or the new product. That could be one opportunity as well. But as you mentioned, I think in Finland 93% are micro companies, so it's huge majority, and that's why, yeah.
Thank you.
Really good question. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions? Then I think we will proceed to new business models. Thank you again, Santeri. It was really good to have you here with us, and please stay and hear the rest of the presentations if you have time. But now, Christina, welcome. The floor is yours.
Hello, and thank you. Let me see if I can share my presentation. Okay. Can you see it?
Yes, thanks.
Okay, great. Let's see. So I'm going to talk about a little bit about the business models for resilient business models that we have here in a central part of Romania. And I'm going to start by just presenting and saying that Romania is resilient by nature, because if we look into our history, I think that the events, the historical events, and everything that has happened to us, being a small Latin country surrounded by a world of Slavonic countries, has taught us to be resilient and always be adaptive and since we have always been at the frontier between big powers, I think resilience is something that many of Romanians have by nature, at least in terms of being adaptive and creative, so to speak. I'm going to talk a little bit more about one of our eco destinations that we have in Sibiu County, called Colinele Transilvaniei, or Transylvanian Highlands, and how we have managed to make nature a value, not only for tourism but also for communities living here, and to turn it into a hook for getting tourists to discover or rediscover our destinations. As I said before, our key drivers have always been innovation, adaptability, as I said, versatility, always being open-minded and learning from our visitors and our ancestors, and also being able to fusion different elements and different types of activities and services together, not always going to the beaten tracks, so to say. Some more about our destination, just as a presentation. We are located, as I told you, into the very heart of the country, a country that not many people know. It's not. It's rather a large area, and we are the second largest natural protected areas of the country, apart from the well-known Danube Delta. And we are lucky to have a very big variety of Natura 2000 sites, of natural reservation and of natural monuments. Typical medieval, we call it medieval landscape, mosaic landscape, which alternates cultural areas, small urban areas with villages, traditional villages, multicultural villages, because in this area we have been living together for more than 800 years. Romanians, Saxons, Hungarians, Gypsies, Roma people, and some other nationalities. So, as I like to joke from time to time, we have been a small pilot of the EU in the making, and we also, in this landscape, there's also small-scale farming, forests, pastures, wooden pastures, grasslands. So it's a very mixed landscape, highlands alternated with lowlands and with valleys, crossed by streams. So it's a very idyllic and a great scenery that always invites you to some poetry. That's what we like to present to our tourists, that here you have to take time to really enjoy the nature around you. Moreover, we have unique biodiversity. We have some of the last remaining functional wooden pastures in this part of Europe. They also are a center point of attraction for biologists and for specialists all around the world who come here to conduct studies on the biodiversity that we have here, because apparently from what they are saying, the fact that we have so many species on a rather small area is something that has been lost to many other areas in Europe. As I said before, we are located in the country center, not very far from a few important tourist landmarks in the country, such as the cities of Brașov, Sibiu, and the city of Sighișoara, which is rather well known as being related to Count Dracula stories that may or may not be true. In terms of figures, we cover a little bit more than 2,000 square kilometers with a population of 80,000 people. So it's a medium-size rural, medium-size density rural area, and with cover with areas that are more dense, of course, and with areas that or villages that are more remote. Our profile before the development of the ecotouristic destination was somewhat of what you are seeing in this picture, taking probably maybe 15 years ago, where the area was not at all a touristic landmark, but rather a place for adventure travelers who wanted some exotic landscapes. Most of them were international tourists, mostly from Germany, from the United Kingdom, and from Austria, giving the fact that with the Saxon population that we had in the area, they were connected in a cultural way, and with less than 30% of national tourists coming to our area. Most of them were seniors, so at that time were between more than 55 years old, and the number of SMEs in tourism was rather scarce. There were just a few guest houses here and there, or not even that, just people opening their houses to the travelers that happened to be in the village. And mostly the area was known for the cultural tourism, as you see in the background of this picture. The fortified churches is one of our main image. We are an area with more than 100 fortified churches, all of them different, and all of them dating from the somewhere between the 12th and the 15th century. When this part of Transylvania was frontier between the Austrian-Hungarian and the Ottoman Empire. The typical duration of the stay in this area of the country was mostly less than 1 day as a medium throughout the year. So people were basically coming through the area, visiting some villages, and then going back to wherever they were staying. And there were no infrastructure related to tourism or rural tourism other than, as I said, a few accommodation or a few places to eat with the locals, but nothing organized. 10 years later, through constant resilient activities, because as I said before, resilience is something that, okay, we learn how to call it now because it's a word that it's used more and more in the last 3 or 4 years, but it's something that we have constantly been doing, being resilient to changes that I'm going to explain or to detail a little bit later, and constantly innovating the tourism offers. So Today we have our tourism pool is split half and half between national tourists and between international tourists. Still, our main markets come from the UK and Germany, but the other places, top 3, 4, 5 until top 10, has constantly been changing. And for instance, Europeans from countries such as France or Spain or Ireland have come to discover our country and to come in larger numbers. The age range of our tourists has spanned widely from 0 to 80 years old. I believe our oldest tourist that we have documented was 82, and he was a part of a hiking group, and we were very happy that he confessed that he had a great time in our destination. We have also had an exponential growth of number of tourism SMEs. So if, as I told you, 10 years before, we might have had probably, I don't know, several guest houses or small bed and breakfasts in the area. Now we've managed to cover only in our ecotourism network. I'm going to talk a little bit later about what that is. We have more than 60 types of accommodations. But apart from that, there are also local producers, local gastronomic points, small scale restaurants, local guides, local tour operators, and so on and so forth. We have, as I told you, a collaborative platform which we call the Ecotourism Network, comprised of these small SMEs. I call them SMEs, but as somebody said before, they are more like really small SMEs. It's just small guest houses, small scale businesses, and freelancers that are especially local guides are freelancers that are employed by some other tour operators later on, and they constantly meet and work together to develop or to build their own capacity together. Our typical duration of stay has become more than 2.5 days. Before the pandemic, we almost reached 3 nights per medium duration of the stay per whole year, taking into consideration that almost half of the guest houses are not opened for at least 2 months a year. So it was a very satisfactory duration of the stay for us. And since last year, we have had also an official acknowledgement and an official certification as an ecotourism destination by our National Tourism Board. As I said before, for us, change and challenge, and as some of my fellow presenters today have highlighted several times, change and challenge are the mother and father, if you want to say, of resilience. They are the key drivers of what makes us constantly trying to find new ways to be better or to improve our services as an SME or as a destination. And for us, the challenges deal with 4 major domains. One of them is the nature, because of the climate change, because of loss in biodiversity due to the threat of and the pressure of intensive agriculture practices, and also the threat of deforestation, or better said, bad forest management, or insufficient or unsustainable. Community, the area, or as all rural areas in Europe, I think we have been faced to a demographic decline with, and for that I'm a little bit further during my presentation. I'm going to take you a little bit back into the history of our area. The depopulation of the rural area and of the destination, and hence a problem in finding local workforce to be involved in tourism or any other activity. And then health, related to, this is a rather newer topic, related to the pandemic situation, and modern trends for search of personal development, or the tendency to of more and more people to be more aware of mental health and its impact on the development of a community. And economy, we are dealing in the last 2 years post-pandemic, and maybe even before, with inflation, with a constant threat or a constant danger of a big economic crisis, and with the arrival of AI or automatization, which for a rather traditional community may be seen as a challenge. So we are going to take each part on its own. In terms of nature, here you can see a photo of a typical landscape these days. Maybe 1 kilometer, maybe less than 1 kilometer of each village that we have here. This is a typical landscape that you may see at sunset. We have 7 protected sites which cover almost 90% of the destination. We have one site, one Natura 2000 site for protection of birds, 4 for the protection of wooden pastures, and this typical landscape that you are seeing in the photograph. One nature reserve, an ancient old oak tree pasture with secular and century-old oak trees, and one local natural protected monument. The big challenges in terms of preserving this beautiful nature that we have had here for centuries is first and foremost the climate change, because from being a 4-season area where we had winter with maybe 3 meters of snow and minus 20 degrees in the night, now snow is something that we pray to see each winter, but doesn't always happen. And that prevents us from having a stronger winter season. As I told you before, some of the guest houses are closed during the winter time, because the scenery, this beautiful scenery, is not as beautiful in the winter, or in the winter that we have now. It would be wonderful in snow, but it's not always covered in the beautiful white blanket. And also biodiversity is managed, as I told you, by land grabbing and the pressure of big farmers to to have intensive agriculture, big farming facilities, and the problems in some areas we experience some problems in forest management or poorly management of the forests. And as I told you before, we see every challenge as an opportunity to engage people or to be engaged. And therefore, one of the best business case models that I want to talk about is one of the newest that we have in the area. It's an open landscape forum developed by an organization that is fighting to keep the biodiversity and the landscape as it is right now, with open landscapes, so no fences, no big fences being built, because part of the excuse me, part of the this process of turning small-scale farming into bigger scale farming also involves the limitation of properties, and it presents a big issue not only for the large carnivore corridors, but also for access of people to their lands, and also for not to mention for the touristic experience. So what they have built is a collaborative platforms for SMEs and locals as well, in order to discuss and to get together, as some of my fellow presenters said today, having those informal meetings and also workshops, and learning how and what are the best models to increase and to better their lobby for policy adaptation and for putting into regulation this idea, the fact that nature and the landscape are part of our heritage and should be protected as such. Not only the cultural and man-made landmarks should be protected, but also the nature and its elements. They are also working in conservation activities and building new models for sustainable practices. They have, for instance, have put together an old orchard with local types of fruits and local types of vegetables from local how do you call it, local seeds and traditional ancient seeds, not seeds imported from other countries, local seeds that are best adapted to the soil. And they are working with schools in terms of education and on creating, and communities on creating awareness of the importance of taking further and not losing our traditional way of working the land, because part of the landscape, part of the way the landscape looks today is because communities have always been using the landscape in a pace with nature, and giving nature the time to breathe, giving nature the time to regenerate, and so on and so forth. It is just, I can talk for hours on how practical Saxon communities used to be in terms of managing their lands and their forests. Another example is, as I told you, our ecotourism destination. We consider it a key for resilience in front of the issues that this area is confronted to, and but only when we manage to, or this is our goal, to manage to turn the culture passive collector type of tourist that only goes on into an area, sees the cultural sites, maybe has a good meal and then goes back, to a nature active contributor to the place that they are visiting, getting them involved into the community and getting them to spend more time in the community, and focusing on bringing nature as a main part of the attraction, and getting people to rediscover the forests, and building tourism programs around the rich biodiversity that we have here. To be more specific, this means biking trails, hiking trails. We have more than 600 kilometers of hiking and biking trails, equestrian packages. We have several equestrian centers that are working together in order to produce tourism guided tours for horse riders, with maybe 1 week just in the area. Flora and wildlife observation, where we involve two local organizations are getting involve locals, such as forest guards or even hunters. Even though ecotourism and hunting, you say that they don't go together, we are trying to, on one hand, explain to and educate the tourists that responsible hunting is a part of a good management of the biodiversity, and also to engage hunters into the more sustainable area of their activity, and also, of course, bird watching. We have had experienced bird watchers that have gone all over the world, and were very excited of the number of species that they can observe in the area, because apart from having a hilly and the highlands specific species, we also are located between two big rivers, and so we also have water birds that can only be some of the species with a good outcome of the climate change, if we can say that, is that we have species that were usually observed only in the Danube Delta, also being noticed and documented as living in our destination, in the rivers that are the frontier of the destination. And also that also happens because we are in the middle of the migration streams. So between April and October, it's really everywhere you walk around is birds. Every time you go into a forest, it's like having a great free concert that rejuvenates you while you are being active and taking care of your health. Another important aspect that we are working on whilst talking about business case models is the certification. In Romania, we do not only have a labeling of an ecotourism labeling for SMEs. We also have, I believe that we might be one of the few countries in Europe, if not the only one, that has an official certification process for destinations that is being done by the tourism board. And at this point, we in Romania have more than 10 ecotouristic destinations, and 6 of them are certified by the National Tourism Board. And this certification is a very tedious process that involves a lot of criteria dealing with attractivity, dealing with management, maximizing positive outcomes and impacts of tourism on the community, and minimizing the negative impacts on modernization, and also a lot of criteria dealing with waste management and resource management and sustainability. The certification process is has been inspired by the European GTSC standard. So for us, quality is a key, and this certification process called Eco-Romania is being given to accommodations and tour operators for the moment. For us, it's a big joy that we have several certified operators in the area, both accommodations and tour operators. And because a part of this of their footprint on the community is to be able to involve the members of local communities that are not involved in tourism, like local producers, local farmers, or local guides in making, not just certified guides. And also they are involved in maintaining the infrastructure that we have built, or we have built together with them, because the infrastructure has been made available to the tourists, but with the help of the SMEs who are actively involved in promoting it, and also in maintaining it by volunteering, or by taking onto a certain segment onto their own and dealing with all of the issues that may arise. A second domain that we tackle with is the community. We have a big community. We are talking about 44 municipalities and 135 villages and 3 small towns. Small towns is under 50,000 people. And as I told you before, the big challenges are the demographic decline and the depopulation, because after the 1990s, the remaining Saxon population emigrated heavily outside of Romania, and before the touristic revivement, most of the population was old-aged, and also very, let's say, I wouldn't say depressed, but without hope for the future, because they were all dependent on former communist cooperative projects, and some of them didn't know at that point what would be their future. So tourism came as, for most of them, as not a way out, but a light at the end of the tunnel. Of course, we were lucky enough to beneficiate the support of a very high royal British figure that is linked to Romania, has relatives here, and has constantly been promoting the area and the villages and the life here. So this promotion really helped. We could not deny it. But all the work behind this promotion is the work of the local people. So in order to boost a little bit the or to try and revive and teach the local communities to be more adaptive. One of the examples that I want to talk about is a recent project that was being implemented in the area by 3 organizations called Pact 2020, which dealt with 10 communities and through mentoring and informal get-togethers and informal networking, worked with the local people, and we tried to select the participants as not to be only involved in tourism, but to be representatives of other types of professions or of typologies from the community, to build with them, to talk to them about community involvement, the power of one versus the power of many, and to get them to increase their capabilities in order to teach them how to lobby for themselves for local regulation and strategy changing when they notice some issues in their own community, and to learn how to speak and to have the tools on how to communicate with local authorities and how to get their voice heard. Another example of local initiative that started as a networking meeting is called Transylvanian Brunch, and was implemented by an organization called My Transylvania, where they used food as the key hook and the key ingredient. And it started in 2008 as a monthly networking event for local initiatives that was set each last Saturday of the month, between the months of April and the months of September, and they would just set up the place and would meet together just to catch up on what activities, what projects they were doing. So it started very informal, and nowadays it has become a brand on its own, and has been exported to other regions in Romania. So we have branches in the northern part in Moldova or in the southern part, and they have been opened for tourists that wanted to be a little bit, they wanted to have an insight on how communities are working in our part of Transylvania, because for the whole country, this part of Transylvania has always been seen as a place where things happen and nobody understood how they happen, and it was very difficult for people to say, okay, you meet or you work together, but how do you not quarrel with each other? How can you reach a consensus? How do you manage to build these things together? And little by little, organizations started to invite their friends and to witness how it happened. And little by little, it turned into a touristic experience that has been enriched with guided visits of the village where it was happening, and also craftsman workshops or different discussions or debates. And also, on the other hand, it has created like an incentive for the locals to be proactive into turning their daily activity into a touristic experience. for instance, one of the villages that that received for the first time a Transylvanian branch, one of the first meetings that the organizers had with one of the ladies in the village who were supposed to cook, said, okay, let's talk about how and what we are going to cook. And she immediately started saying, okay, I'm going to prepare some nice modern dishes like schnitzel or some salads, like modern salads. And the organizer said, no, can you please tell me what you had for lunch or last 3 days? And she said, okay, I had the stew and some bread and some homemade bread in the wooden oven, in the traditional oven, and just some pickles. And I said, okay, that's what we are going to serve. And she was like, no, I cannot serve this kind of food for strangers, for guests who are coming into my yard. This is not something that we are doing. And they just try to get to get the ladies to have the faith that the menu choice that they were making was okay. And they always say that they should have had somebody filming the reaction of the ladies when seeing how successful their traditional and not very fancy dishes had on tourists. And what is interesting is that since this event happens every time in another village, so they don't repeat the same location, some of them still have that same reaction today. So this means that we still have to work on getting them to trust the fact that their old recipes could be or are important and are valuable, especially in the world today when everybody is fancies about MasterChef and reinventing and fusion gastronomy and all of that. So that means that there's still a lot of work for us to be doing in the future when working with locals and with small business, family business, owned businesses. Another case model that I want to present today is related to education, because I think in each of our countries we face issues that are related to a poor education system. For us, education has to be about sustainable development. So we are lucky that we have in our area SMEs, organizations like Shub Center, who are specifically dealing with and working with schools and teachers to have workshops and visits constantly related to sustainable development. It's not just related to nature, but related to the connection that we as humans must have with nature in order to have a brighter future. So always adapting and listening to nature's signals. And this type of trainings are designed for, as I told you, for children, but also for their teachers, in order to giving them the tools that they can use later on in the classes in order to pay it forward and to multiply the results. Also, they do training for local guides so that their skill area improves and enlarges into knowing a little bit more about nature. And when going with tourists into nature, they can give more and more details and thus enhancing the touristic experience. And also a training of trainers, as I told you, as a multiplication factor in order to take the teachings and the tools further on into the community. There are so many business case models that I can talk about because as in Extremadura, there are a lot of very small family-owned businesses, and we are lucky that we have very creative people that manage to surprise us with resilience examples every day, because almost all of our destination capacity is family owned. There are very few big facilities, accommodation facilities, and big chains, big hotels chains are only available in the towns around the destinations. So we have farmers that are innovating, local guides that are innovating. I'm going to show you just a small example of that later on. Craftsmen that are being more open with their crafts towards the tourists, not just to produce the object, and especially tour operators. More than 50% are locals, so they are constantly looking for ways to change their activities, to be more creative, to set apart from their competitors. So they are constantly improving their activities and applying resilience every day. Once the pandemic hit, we talked a little bit about with the SMEs and try and reposition our destination as a working area, because we have so many small-sized guest houses where a family could retreat, especially those living in big urban areas, because most of our national audience is coming from big urban areas. And they can also work remotely and also enjoy the beautiful fresh air and what the villages have to offer in terms of nature and culture. The destination has also been more and more a destination or interesting for event organizers and team building organizer, or different types of workshops dealing with a variety of subjects. Here you have just a few examples of the types of workshop or working meetings. It's not just for fun, but also working meetings that happen in the area, and peer-to-peer skill improvement. Also, the destination is repositioning itself as a place where we create, a place where artists are welcome and they have the freedom to be to be with people, but also in solitude if they need to be, and they have the full liberty to create and be creative and inspire themselves from nature. And we are using nature very often as a source of or as a stage for artistic residencies in iconic sceneries, and by reconversing of spaces, as you see here in the picture on the right, because the Saxon communities are smaller or non-existent in some villages, churches have been revived by concerts or as artistic galleries in the times that they are not serving as worship place. In terms of health, what we are constantly trying to do, apart from the pandemic situation, is to use the nature healing powers and or to valorize, because I don't like really to use the word use. It's a paradox, but to valorize nature and to benefit from its healing potential. And this is why we are constantly working on positioning for mindfulness enthusiasts, and to try and use nature and the tranquility of the villages, because most of the villages are quite remote. There is no big highway or high traffic road crossing. The destination is just, we have like 2 national roads, but inside the destinations almost all the roads are quite quiet and with small traffic. So it's a great place to deconnect, but also to reconnect to your own inner stability and inner mind and inner peace. So we are building around this subject a lot of, and all the there are various SMEs that are building around this this subject with reconversion of old barns into future spas, like natural spas, not really modern, or use the healing power of plants to and include them into the offering of an accommodation, and having accommodations, accommodation owners serving as local guides for just a walk around the village, and explaining a little bit more about the nature around. It's a new business model that we are currently working with the local SMEs that have expressed interest in tackling this domain, and it's going very well, and we'll keep you posted on how it goes. Finally, it's just something that we are working on in the last few months. And I think last but not least, this place, home away from home, is something that we were not bright enough to think for ourselves, but there was something that tourists coming here did or dreamt to do. A lot of the current guest house owners are former tourists, meaning that they have come into the area as adventure travelers. They have fallen in love with the tranquility of the place and what it has to offer, and they have bought a house and have moved completely and permanently into the area. So the area is a place you visit once and dream to live forever. As I said, the main feature is that it's a simpler life, and a life that is it goes around nature. So it depending on nature's phases and nature's not seasons but nature's moments, all the life in the area and in the destination is going around it, and it's something that we want to transfer to the touristic offer of the area, because in a world full of speed and anxiety, taking the time is something that we need more and more. And this favors, as you have seen in the first slides, this favors longer term bookings, and that was the case especially during COVID, and but not only, but also has helped the revitalization of villages, because when having more and more people that have lived in urban areas moving into a village, it has created a small focus group and a small number of active citizens or active people that have triggered, have served as examples, as best case examples for other people in the village. They have seen that it is possible, and have created in some villages, they have created like a trend, and which was resulted into locals that have been away and have gone into living in other countries, coming back and starting a business in their own village and in their own home land. We work with the locals SMEs who always try to be sustainable, so they were constantly thinking about like the Saxons that used to live here. As I told you, they were very practical people. They were all about being sustainable and all about reusing spaces and nothing goes to waste type of people. So refurbishing and reconversion is the key word in terms of accommodation businesses. We have several examples of beautiful reconversions. You're just seeing two examples of old houses, old traditional Saxon houses or Romanian houses, old barns. Most of the restaurants, which is strange, but it's true. Most of the restaurants or guest house or guest rooms in the villages used to be barns and used to be places where animals would sit. So since the animals the family has gone and there are no more animals, they have managed to find a way to not let all that space go to waste, and try to reinvent and to be practical about what they can do with the space. But also church dependencies have been transformed into rooms, restaurants, or even art galleries. Here on the right side on the bottom, you're seeing a church dependency. So it's the church wall that hosts guest houses for guest rooms for tourists, or up in the right where you see an old bee pavilion also transformed into a semi-mobile room that tourists can rent and can live in nature, or old mansions being transformed, or houses being refurbished, simpler in an old traditional way. And this is where each family has done their best to be creative in terms of facilities that they are offering apart from accommodation. And I'm not talking about meals, but also the type of the accommodation, how comfortable they are, giving the space that tourist needs when it needs it, or being with them and talking about their history. We have several types of business models, from guest houses that are typical and that offer good, comfortable accommodation and homemade meals, to some others that are a story into their own. They are storytellers that attract and have been very creative into putting their own story and marketing their own story on how they managed to have the guest houses, whether they were locals that have refurbished their old parents' house, or whether they were tourists who fell in love with the place and moved, and all the challenges that they have encountered. They managed to reinvent themselves and to really be market themselves to a very specific targeted audience. And I'm coming to the economical, of course, and practical aspect of our resilience examples. As somebody else said before, people are very practical and they want to know, okay, this sounds very good, but what am I getting from this, and how does this impact me, how it may help me, or how do I see the benefits from this? And this is where creativity kicks in. And it started with like basic, typical diversification of revenue sources, guest houses that have bought, for instance, bicycles, and they rented it, and then there was a need for equipment repairing, so there was somebody else who was repairing the bikes, or there was a need, okay, we have the bikes, we have the tourists, but the tourists don't know how to go, or they are afraid of bears, for instance. So the need for more local guides has presented itself, but mostly the event planners. Our area is very well known for some well-known events, not very big events. They are mostly small or medium-scaled events, so it's not something that is huge and blocks all the access in the area. It's rather more events, and many, because we are lucky to have many places, and they are rather accessible from one village to another. So we just like having a big playground with a lot of very interesting places to go very near one from one another. So that attracted event planners and creative arts enthusiasts, and that led to a whole types of packages. For instance, here you have a picture of a biking trail that crosses a barn of somebody's house and can be used by tourists. Crossing inside the barn is possible only several times a year when a biking festival happens, but when they are not home, they do have an alternative section that crosses the garden, so it doesn't need to enter the house. So that's something something that is really presented in all the photographs of every bike enthusiast. Everybody wants to go there and have that photo being taken of them crossing the barn or the restaurant. And mixing, for instance, the area is well known for as a former wine area. So there are some SMEs that are trying to revive that and to create small wineries and replant some wine in order to see how the production goes. And there are a lot of packages related to wine, and combining fine dining and wine, and or music and wine, or any other combination that you can think about. Most of the tourism packages are modular, so they are just like a puzzle, and you can combine them. So they are very custom made, and this is a very or tailor made. It's a very specific thing for our area. No two packages are alike. So, but that also means that the local SMEs have to be very careful in terms of cost management, and they are in fact very attentive and very have a keen eye on collaborating with accommodations and with other service providers that favor sustainable practices. For instance, very attentive on their carbon footprints, on reducing waste, on using non-plastic packages, for instance, or reusing rainwater, or other practices, similar practices, apart from just using local products and organic products. Another thing that works very well in our area, and that is the birthplace for resilient practices. It's this collaboration and cross-promotion, reviving Saxon medieval neighborhoods. Saxons were always organized in neighborhoods, first according to their guild that they were a part of, and then in the more modern times according to their just proximity. And this is something that people are keen on having talks, and even in winter they have like something that we are called the sitting, and where they talk, they exchange ideas, they work together, they promote one another. So this is something that has been starting for the last maybe 8 years and is still going on more and more, and something that we as a destination management unit are facilitating and also encouraging. And not to mention the online and the new media channel presence. We may be remote in villages, but we are tech-wise not really very digital, because we still think that if you come to the area, you need to, as I said before, deconnect first. So we are trying to, okay, have access to internet, but allow you to just take a break, just have time for yourself. And but that doesn't mean that the local SMEs are not present on online, almost all online booking platforms such as Booking or TripAdvisor or Airbnb, and also not that we are not or on new media channels. They all have Facebook pages at least, if not Instagram or other social media accounts. Some of them are quite proficient in that area and have successfully been using these channels in order to monetize this presence into tourists and into revenue for them. We have quite a lot of social media influencers that have moved to the area, which is very helpful to promote what the area has to offer. And also we work with them on getting more professional in terms of targeting audience and segmentation, and thinking about what types of, and getting a little bit more professional in terms of marketing strategies. And a part of that marketing strategies is that apart from being present in typical tourism fairs, we are also exploring new marketing channels such as targeted audience. As I said before, not only having influencers or promotional partnerships to get people to come to the area, but also being present in different types of fairs where our targeted tourists are. Meaning, for instance, because our main target is let's say people of a certain status, we want people to come and spend the money in the area. And we have done several studies for the last maybe 7 years, monitoring and statistics from both the accommodations, but also from surveys to our passing tourists. And we have targeted several types of tourist profiles, and also targeted where they might be, or what are the events that they are attending, and trying to have promotional campaigns or promotional activities exactly where they are, instead of just being present at like general tourism fairs, or doing info trips with tourism operators. Also, here are a few examples of another type of creativity and resilience in our guiding operators. On the far right, you have a photograph of a tourist guide who is using reenactment techniques and a character that he's presenting to his tourists whenever he has a guided visit. and this is a personal touch. All the research behind this character is done by them, and it has an enormous success. And I think he must be thinking about exporting or cloning himself to respond to all of the demands. Also, continuous training and skill improvement of service provider. As I said before, we are very keen on working with service providers to get to know themselves more about nature and how nature can be included into the tourism products, and also focus on smaller groups that spend more and more time in the destination, as well as teaching presentation skills to local guides. And always come back to the essence, and not forgetting our authenticity, and also be in constant search of, because that's where resilience comes from, by learning about your history, learning about yourself, and looking on what you have to offer. And I think in order to be a good, resilient business, you first need to take a deep inner search of your qualities and where do you come from, because that's where the inspiration comes from. And for us is always that simple life, homemade meals, farm to table experience, visit a farm or work into a farm, work with us in a farm. The insight that tourists always want to have on the real local life, not just some traditional or tourist shows. They want to experience real life, and this is a ever-growing trend of travelers around the world. And the emphasis that we put on all the fresh products and on season products and season activities, just not to have, the same food be available all year round, just get people to expect, and that separates a little bit more also the target, but also the expectations of tourists. And always have immersive experiences, not only for children. I mean, using here just photos with children because they are cuter, but also adults are very, very attractive for all the immersive experiences, especially those related to how to cook a certain recipe. So cooking classes are being more and more demanded on on farm life, but also on everyday life of family in Transylvanian highlands. Is just something that tourists always want to experience, and something that the guest houses are thinking of more and more interesting ways on how to include that into the touristic experience. That was all from me. If you have any questions.
Thank you, Christina, for sharing the incredible work that you have done in your destination in a sustainable and resilient way. So, any questions to Christina? So, if you like and you have some questions, you can also put them in the chat. But I believe we might continue and give the floor to Janne from Naturpolis. Welcome, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Anna, and thank you also, Christina and Santeri, for excellent presentations. I'm at the moment in Finland, so we have a lovely weather here, and what I'm going to tell about you now is some business cases considering the resilience. But before that, may I also briefly present myself. I have years of experience in tourism business. I've been working both in Finnish and international companies, covering hotels, meetings, events, food and beverage sector, event organizing, tourism development, and so on. Plus also done consulting with the small and medium-sized companies. I also have a master's degree in economics and geography, but that's about me. And I'm now going to share my presentation about the resilience and the business cases. Just a moment. It's here. Now, I hope you can all see my presentation here. We have been discussing today and heard excellent presentations, as I said, about resilience. And my main focus is now especially on business resilience. And before I start to present some practices and examples, what I have learned and experienced in tourism, I just would like to briefly once again explain my points of view and how I see the resilience in this business environment. Today's agenda is based in my presentations on these topics, but briefly just about the resilience as itself. And then we move into business cases and, of course, then finally the summary. But to start with about the resilience and other things, it is very often when I discuss with the business owners about these things, we actually discuss about continuity, which is not the same thing than resilience. The resilience is much wider entity or giving the big picture. How I see this is that the continuity is more or less usually associated with so to speak, keeping the lights on, so that if we have a power cut, for example, and then we get the power again working, so we do the business as we used to do. That's the continuity term and aspect. But resilience is another one. That is to make sure that we have sustainability in every single function of the enterprise. Meaning that we have more holistic approach to resilience and these things, changes, challenges in our business environment. And to put that all together, I just a couple of weeks ago read a global resilience survey made by Deloitte. Also noticed that Santeri is or has been working in Deloitte sometimes before. Don't know if this report is familiar to you, but anyway, when we are talking about business resilience and organizations resilience, we are talking about many things at the same time, and that's why it requires a kind of a strategic mindset to think about these things proactively. And to define this, what really the resilience is to enterprises is that the key factors in this report, which is a global view to this agenda and phenomenon, is that to prioritize investments, to look forward which investments are needed, which are not, in resilience accordingly, and also to find better flows for information inside the company, or as they put in Deloitte writing, silos that restrict information flows. And then, of course, you have to have the capabilities to use these data and all the innovations, meaning coordinating end-to-end capabilities. These are just a couple things I wanted to highlight here before these business cases. But one more thing still, as we have heard today, resilience is not an easy single thing to describe, and it has many phases. And we can say that it has physical phases. For example, if we are traveling by car to a destination, to a hotel, for example, and there is a roadblock, we cannot reach the target, and there is a physical obstacle there. How to deal with that? It's integrated to this physical resilience points of view. Or we may have a legal or politically linked resilience obstacles. I just took one recent example here on the legal perspective. It's that US-based company Meta was fined a big sum of money for violating European Union data privacy rules. And why that is also that news is also resilience news, is that in resilience, when we do that on company level, we have to be proactive. We have to look forward. And even though the Meta, which owns, for example, Facebook, there is no imminent changes in their operational side. But the company, the Meta, has said that this may cause that they have to block the European Union Facebook users from the US Facebook users. And if you have a company, say, who has taken Facebook as their main social media channel, and you have mainly customers from the US, so you have a problem if you cannot use that social media platform in the future because of these legal obstacles or restrictions. And that's why also, and I also will repeat this many times, you have to be proactive and understand the big picture and understand the big picture effect to your businesses. And then, of course, digital resilience, because we are very much applications dependent. We have this meeting now here online. We need some tools for it, but we need also, I think at least most of us needs electricity to run these laptops and computers, and also we need the internet connection. So if these fail, we cannot have these meetings, and that's why how to tackle these proactively, or how to tackle them when there is a malfunction, that's resilience planning. And then fourth, this is no, by the way, this is no particular order here, these topics, but fourth is mental resilience. We very often discuss about digital or physical resilience. I was very glad to hear about Santeri is emphasizing this parts of the resilience also, because it's in the end the people who do or do not do things, and their actions really are if we are going to succeed or not. And to give you an example, I think sports is a good example to think about the mental resilience. Of course, businesses too, but in sports, it's almost the most important key factor to succeed as an athlete, for example, that you have a good mental resilience. Now, we have we have been discussing about this resilience and its many phases. So next I'm going to present some business rethinking ideas I have been discussing over the years with many companies and business owners, small, medium-sized, and larger ones. And of course, these discussions are confidential, but I have collected some ideas to present you category-wise about this, concerning these discussions and the current changes in our business environment, so that you will find maybe some advice for your job too, and further to deliver that to the companies in your areas. And I have split these ideas into three categories. The business case A here represents accommodation or lodging. These categories are chosen because they have many things in common. So there is always a key line in this category which I'm highlighting, and in this accommodation or lodging category, it is to identify the role of new technology. There are many other things also, but especially in this segment and in this part of the business in tourism, new technology has played a major part in changes recently. There are new products, new operations, pricing models, and distribution ways, which I'm now going to discuss about in detail. And to present these examples, I'm mainly now talking about the Finnish perspective. Some of them are also globally recognized, but mainly this approach is from what the companies do or have done in Finland. So new products. When you have an accommodation, you may do different kind of new packages. For example, during the pandemic, during COVID-19, some companies offered also abroad, of course, the package where it was combined hotel accommodation and health insurance. Why? Because that is to make sure and to show that the company is serious about this health issue and trying to make you easier to decide to choose that hotel, and at the same time without doing any extra job to get a health insurance in case of you get the COVID-19 during your travel. That has never been before, but of course, new situation requires new actions. Also, the same thing applies to this second part of this terms and conditions revised. That was done globally in this accommodation segment. Many hotels or accommodation providers changed their terms and conditions because it was not so easy during these travel restrictions to travel, and because the travel restrictions changed so rapidly and so often, more flexibility was needed from the accommodation side, and they reacted. And they have to react because otherwise the sales would have dropped even more. So that's also a very important thing to look for, not only new products or innovations, but go through your current procedures and terms and conditions. And then, of course, when you are in a business, you need money to get in and hopefully get it in more than it's going out. And that's why the sales channels are very, very important. The key role is to use your own channels. In the hotel business, it's not so much like these other other channels like booking.com or hotels.com, they are good for marketing, but they are very, very expensive. And in the case or situations where a general demand is decreasing, then you need to find a more profitable ways to distribute or market your products or services, and that's done best developing even further your own sales channels, and how to get people to use them is very often done so that you give some extra. It can be a late checkout, or it can be early check-in, or it can be, you know, some refreshments, or it can be upgrade to upgrade your room if that's possible, if you are using the accommodation or hotel's own sales system or sales channel instead of these other channels. So these are just to give you some highlights about accommodation segments, products and operations done recently, because the resilience requires these changes, otherwise your businesses go very bad. Not only that you have new products and new channels, but you can also find more profits using new pricing models. Of course, there has to be a good information behind that, so that you know what you can do and what you cannot do price-wise, because it's easy to ask too much price for a hotel accommodation, or too little price, and then that has major consequences all along. But for example, new pricing, to give you an example, usually we had in the hotel business two ways, or two options to book a hotel. Pay now everything 100% in advance when you book, or pay at the property when you arrive. And of course, the first one was a little bit cheaper than the other one. But because of these travel restrictions and other obstacles, and also people were very scared to or afraid of traveling, not only terms and conditions, but also pricing models were renewed, so that it was a common thing to offer also not this pay everything now or pay everything at the property, but pay something now to secure your booking, and at the same time the company, the business owner, gets something anyway. But you do not have to pay everything, because it is a chance that your travel plans may change because of things you cannot control, for example, travel restrictions. So that was a good solution, a good new pricing model to develop. And of course, at the same time, from a hotelier perspective, you need to focus very much on the cost side. And from the customer's point of view, you do not want to pay for the services you are not using. This is very common and has been for many years in the airlines particularly, but now the same thing applies many hotels, so that if you do not want to have a breakfast, you don't have to book it, or if you do not want or need a cleaning, you don't have to take it, and things like that. So pay for needed services only. That give you more options to choose from, and also it reduces from the company side the personal cost. You do not have to make cleaning every day. You know that before, and you can plan your staff working calendar accordingly. And then, for example, this contactless operation, it can be so that you have a hotel or business owner's own application or online system where you can do check-in without even seeing the person or staff. So especially during the COVID-19 period, this was a very much used option. It needs a booking system or checking system that can be integrated together, and it's also a cost. But anyway, from the health security perspective and from the customer perspective, that was a good new thing to add. There can be many contactless things, not only check-in, it can be check-out, it can be ordering food in the restaurant, and so on, so that you can, so to speak, multiply this contactless to many places using the new technology. Of course, not everybody is able to do that, but wherever you are able to do that, you should consider it, because it will help you cost-wise, and it will give usually customers more options to choose from. Then artificial intelligence. I had this key line to identify the new role of technology in the tourism business too. Of course, in other businesses, it's the same thing, but I'm now focusing tourism segment. I'm not going to dig deep down this subject. It's so wide, and there are so many views and angles to this too, but this is just a glimpse to you to raise ideas that if you haven't already, I believe you have, but if you haven't already thought about it, artificial intelligence is nowadays everywhere. So so we see it everywhere, we hear it everywhere, and we can use it almost everywhere. It's not the solution for everything, no, and it's not 100% proof. Just like today before this webinar, I read one article from the BBC News where artificial intelligence tools failed to recognize some things in the US. But anyway, it gives you opportunities, but you has to be able to understand if these opportunities are something for you, and that depends on your business. It sometimes depends on the place where your business is, and it's also, of course, depends on the people in your organization, that how willing they are and how able they are to use this artificial intelligence. But it has a cost effect. It can reduce your costs, operating cost, and it can also help the consumers to choose your service or product. So at least it's advisable to monitor and follow the development of artificial intelligence relating to tourism business and these opportunities. But as said, this is so huge subject that we are not going to dig deep down at this anymore, but just to keep in mind that artificial intelligence is also one way, or might be in your business, one way to tackle the resilience challenge. At least most of the big companies are doing it now a bit, and tomorrow probably a bit more. Business rethinking, business case B or category B is food and beverage, meaning restaurants, catering services, and similar kind of companies. The key line here is that we are talking about resilience concerning or integrating to supply chains, and or as I have put it here, the climate change urges us to build resilience along the supply chains. Of course, climate change is a major new thing behind this, but it's also a local thing that we has to has to take into account when we plan our supply chains, and especially in this food and beverage segment, because we need our raw material. We need sometimes local food, sometimes food from far away, and how that can be obtained in any cases, and what is our restaurant type, what kind of food we need, what kind of beverage we need. Of course, that's a very company-based decision, but anyway, to take care of your supply chains, because if and always sometimes there happens some failures or disruptions in those, and then you must react. It's again new products, new recipes, pricing, and distribution we are discussing next concerning this food and beverage segment. To give you an example in practice, COVID-19 pandemic has changed, at least here in Finland, a lot of this food and beverage business. And when it started, we had to make major changes in our distribution. But before we go to this distribution, there is a life after COVID-19, as we have noticed, and that's a good thing. And one new thing what we have here is that the restaurants are more and more focused and planning the surplus food and how to benefit from that. And of course, you benefit from that by selling it. And that's a good thing, mostly. It's a good thing because if you have a lunch restaurant and you are serving lunch in the buffet, you have a certain amount of food there, and when you are closing, then you certainly have something there, food left, and that is the surplus food. And if you cannot use it, it's going to be a food waste, which is not a good thing, of course. So you can sell it, but then of course you usually sell it a little bit lower price, a cheaper price than the normal buffet. Or then of course you can use it next day in some other recipes if that's possible. But surplus food selling is something you can do. But that and the number 2 here, this takeaway food option, I will come to that later in detail. They require one thing which is new, which the restaurants have not taken into action before, and that is you have to do the packaging of the food. If you have a lunch buffet, of course, you cannot take that on a plate. You have to have a package where you can pick up your surplus food. And because of during the COVID-19 especially, many restaurants started to sell not only takeaway option but also surplus food. They needed a lot more packaging material. And because of this sudden change in business environment, the demand was over the supply, which also caused the prices to skyrocket for this packaging material. And for some time, some were not able to even buy for whatever money you offer. And also here in Finland, it's a very strict legal restrictions and guidance what kind of material you can use when you store or package food. So you cannot use just any boxes. It has to be a certain kind of boxes, and that is something you has to take into account when you are planning to starting surplus food selling, or if you are so-called normal restaurant and you start to selling takeaway food. And that takeaway option became very popular during the COVID-19 just because of this, that you could not here in Finland take any customers inside the restaurant. You just could sell your food out. What that means, it means many things. First, you do not need in a restaurant people serving the food, but you need cooks or chefs to make that. But also at the same time, if you have, as I told you before in this example, you have a lunch buffet. The lunch buffet is made differently. It needs to be done differently than the takeaway food, and that's why you have to modify or use another recipes for this takeaway food comparing to lunch buffet food. That need to be taken into under consideration too. And then also in this market, in Finnish market, maybe the newest model is that we have had the cold food vending machines before, but now there are on the markets and some companies already using hot food vending machines. That's because nowadays we do a lot more work from home, and okay, you still have to eat. You may not want to do your own meal, prepare your own meal, or use these food delivery companies or whatever. But you want to take your food ready-made from somewhere, and so one option is these hot food vending machines. I do not know if they are going to be popular in the future. That is so new thing that we do not have data on this yet here in Finland. But just to give you an idea that how the situation in this business, food and beverage business, is changing. That before COVID-19, we did not have so much takeaway food or surplus food selling. We did not have any hot food vending machines available even here or in use, but now we have. But these needs a different kind of recipes. These need a different kind of packaging materials, and that's, of course, you have to do things a bit different. And then thirdly, also from the sustainable perspective, when we do these things in a new way, we have less and less food waste, which is also a good thing. Before the next slide, one more thing. When I started my commentaries on this slide and about the surplus food selling, I said it's a good thing mostly. The mostly here meaning that before when we did not have so much this surplus food selling, we used, or restaurants used to give that surplus food into charity organizations. And then, of course, these charity organizations then delivered or distributed that further on. Now they face, these charity organizations, they face a major problem because there is less food waste, there is less surplus food available, and because they are not in the same kind of a business than these restaurants, they are facing a major change in their business environment, and it's a big problem for them how to tackle that. Okay, that's about the products, and the recipes need to be modified. And then also we are still continuing in this food and beverage segment here. Then about pricing, and then about distribution. First, again, this example, we have a lunch buffet, and at least here in Finland, it's very common that we have a fixed buffet price. So you pay, shall we say, 10 euros, and you can get so much food from the buffet as you just want. But because many product prices have risen, not only because of the COVID logistical problems, but also the Ukraine war, we have noticed, or many restaurant owners have noticed that this may not be the best way for them to sell the food out. So because some people may take huge amounts of it if it's a fixed price, and the other ones just a little bit. So to be so they have been using more and more price per weight unit. So if you take a plate and put some buffet food there, and then it has a say 200 grams or 500 grams, you pay for that, and I think that's more or less a good thing. So you pay what you need for. Others it may be a little bit more expensive, but others a little bit cheaper than before. But for the restaurant owner, the business owner, it is in this way, if done properly, it's a more cost-effective way to do that business. And then distribution, or how to get new customers. Of course, in restaurant business, you are selling food, and if people are satisfied and they think your food is good, they may happily tell about that, and you should encourage your customers to tell about that in those recommendation platforms like TripAdvisor, or there are several others too, to get those recommendations and to get them a lot, because every now and then, of course, you may not succeed 100%, and somebody sends there or puts his or her comment that I was not so happy about this restaurant or what. But if there are thousands of reviews, so of course you will see that that this is in general quite a good place if the reviews are on that level. And also it will give you very important information about like the feedback from your customers. They won't often tell you that face to face, but they may write down their comments on these recommendation platforms. So it's very important, but you should encourage them to do that, and because it's good for your business, of course, if you have good food. Now, the business case C, or segment C, is completely other one character-wise. It's event organizing or service providers. They are different than food and beverage or accommodation. And here I find the key line is that there is these two things that are very important. That is to embrace the new. Don't be afraid of it, but embrace it. And then leadership. The leadership matters very much. The new approach, when something in your business environment is changing, you should see and treat these challenges as learning opportunities. Of course, it's natural for us human beings to resist some changes, and in some companies the resistance is very strong. But if you have a company built resilience in mind, you have also built the company where the people, the workers, the employees understand that world is changing, whether we want or not, and we just should see this change as a new start or new chance or new opportunity to do whatever we are doing, and that mental attitude helps. A positive mental attitude helps a lot to tackle the resilience challenges. But if all the people, the leaders, including in the company, are very much resistant, so the outcome is very often not so good. And at the same time, in this event organizing business, where you have, for example, you are making or producing some online conferences, you need to have these tools like we have here now and these platforms. But at the same time, you must understand that not every tool is for everybody. For example, hybrid conferences, it's a very different if you are organizing a scientific conference, or if you are going to have an online new car model launch. Different kind of topic, different kind of audiences, different kind of needs, meaning you do not want to use one single tool for each of these online events, and you maybe even can't use them. So it's very important that you have a general understanding, at least, that this tool is better and this tool is not so good for us in this case. And then to be more proactive, especially event organizing, it's so much about the people, it's so much about the leadership abilities. And that's why, as we have heard also today here earlier, it's important to have these networks, people or experts around where you can consult and ask and share your practices maybe, and who can help you when you have a need for that help. And also to see that to develop these tools, not only that you wait and see what the others are doing or what the markets are offering, but in this online world, we need different kind of tools. We need also better tools. But if you are able to be part of that developing process, it will give you a competitive advantage against your rival companies, and so you will succeed better. And that's why it's important not only to take what there is, but to be to have the ability and the will to further develop those. And then under title Innovate, it could be another title here also in this box. When you have online meeting, you are an event organizer, then you have nowadays a very cost-effective way to organize these meetings. That's a good thing. And you have also, in theory at least, possibility to cover all the people in the world, so everybody can be attendant in your meeting if that's allowed. But of course, usually we have only a number of people allowed to attend those meetings. But anyway, it's a possibility. But we have a good and cost-effective tool. We have a tool that can take as many people as we want. But the question is, how do we get these people to attend these meetings? There are many meetings nowadays. I think each of us know that. And we also have limited time resources. So we have to decide whether we join or not this or that meeting. And that's one thing also from the resilience point of view we have to tackle, because it's not only that you have a possibility to attend, but if you have the will to attend, will define if that online meeting is a successful one or not. And that's why you have to find a way to lure and to give people something that why they should attend and why they want to attend. And that may be, for example, to offer some exclusive content, something you cannot get anywhere else. And that's why it's because that's why it's because you want to join this meeting. So you have to tackle a different kind of obstacles. And then also, when we are talking about here a lot about these online tools and online events and online services, it's also that we talk about brand reputation. We all know, I'm sure we all know that it has happened, not once, but several times, that the technology is not working as it should be, or as we hope it would. So every technological failure, malfunction, or in the meeting, the facilitator cannot continue his or her job, or whatever is the problem, it will show you the people who are watching that or attending that meeting something. And usually your company is as good as your company presentations or meetings are. So if you have problems, technical problems, or other presenting your products or services, or making these car model launches, it will reflect automatically in people's mind that, do I trust that they have this problem? Okay, they want to sell this and they want to sell that. Is that good? Because they cannot even tackle these minor technological malfunctions. So the brand reputation cannot be ignored. To have the summary of this is that these business cases are just a glimpse to those solutions and the best practices the companies have used. There are various companies, there are various obstacles, there are various ways to tackle the resilience, so that there is no 5 golden rules to do and then you succeed, or then you are resilient, or whatever. And to highlight that even is that we have different kind of threat scenarios in our resilience planning, and these are in no particular order here either. We have and I have excluded here now the health security, because it has been so much on the agenda, and actually it can be also all of these. But the possible resilience threat scenarios are, first of all, data security. We all know cyber attacks. We all know that email may not function all times, and things like that. So we have to be able to find a resilient way to plan how we use, how we handle, how we manage our data. And it's the people who are doing that also very much. So we have to tell them and guide them and teach them how to do that. Then there is this economic and financial threat scenarios. That's quite natural. We have now a situation here in Europe that and globally too, that interest rates are on the rise, and some products are much more pricier than they used to be, and things like that. When we are in business, we have to look forward. We have to be proactive. We have to understand some things and their effects to our businesses, depending, of course, what our businesses are. And then also this third one, employee or staff. It was also Christina who was discussing about the challenges in Romania, that there is not so easy to get local staff, local workforce, and that's the same thing in many parts of Europe and also in North America, that we do not get the workforce we want, and especially when you have places that there is a seasonality in these businesses, but also that if we get some people, are they people we really need, and have they abilities to do the job, or do we have to teach them? And that takes time and has a cost effect too. But threat scenarios in resilience is also staff or the people working in the organization. And then fourth, last but not least, their company reputation. When we have resilience on agenda, we have to also understand that nowadays we are living in a 24/7 online world where social media platforms are telling things. Some of them are true, some of them are not, and people reading those news and social media posts, they define your company very much through them, or partly at least. And if there is some negative news relating to your company or your actions or your personnel, so it's not a good thing, and that may decrease the number of your clients, and surely it usually not making otherwise, but also to tackle this, meaning that if there is, for example, a kind of an major fire in an hotel property, you must have ready-made plans and protocols in your organization how to tackle that, who is in charge, what to do, who will contact the media, and so on, so that the rumors or the opinions not true are spreading all over the media before you, or the social media, before you have time to send the right information. So the reputation is a big challenge, but it needs to be taken into consideration, and you can not control it, but you can manage it to a certain point, as you should be. Now, this resilience, if we summarize it, and my own experiences too, it is so that the business owners, they are clever people. Otherwise, they couldn't have usually their businesses, or at least not for long. So they do understand and recognize the need for more proactive and more forward-looking, and also more strategical way to look for these things. The resilience, as said, is a holistic approach to these challenges, but at the same time, they understand that it's not easy, and the companies are truly struggling when they are trying to implement or operationalize them in their companies, in their organizations, and that's going to be the case also in the future, and that's why the leadership plays a so big role in this, that if the leadership is capable of tackling this resilience and changing business environment challenges, it really can do this. It can be prepared and can be can meet or face the new changes and sudden changes too, even they are unexpected. But it's the leadership that matters very much, and that needs not a particular people for this. In larger companies, they have lately recruited on the C-level executives this company, these resilient officers, but in small and medium scale businesses, you usually don't do that. But you need to have this proactive and forward-looking attitude and combine that to a strategic planning. So it's easy to say, it's hard to do, and also we have to remember all the time that this is not the one-time case we do. it's a never-ending story because the business environment changes all the time, and there are always new changes to come tomorrow or day after tomorrow. So it's a never-ending story. But this my presentation is not a never-ending story. That is what I just wanted to tell you about resilience and from my experience about the resilience in the business environment. So that's it, folks. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Johanne, for giving yet another aspect on the subject. So there are a lot of different aspects on the subject of resilience. Any questions for Janne? Okay, you still have some time to put your questions to the chat. So next I will give the floor to Anna-Riitta for wrapping up the whole evening. So please, Anna-Riitta, the floor is yours.
Thank you. And for this wrap-up moment, I don't have any presentation, but I've made some notes over the webinar here. And I have 3 points to conclude this webinar. And my first point is that effective resilience is built on interaction and networks. And we heard today and this evening that we have like different kind of networks and how business owners they are looking forward to moments that they can come together and to like support each other. But of course, then we have the individual level as well, that we have to have like resilient individuals who build up resilient communities and resilient teams. But the point that has been many times referred to during this webinar is that we have to have good leaders who know the meaning of resilience and who know how to lead the team and lead the individuals in a way that the whole organization will be built as a resilient team or organization. And we are human beings. We need each other. No man is an island. So this applies also to this resilience case. And yeah, and the meaning of good leadership is essential here. My second point here is that about the proactiveness that was mentioned many times today. So not just reacting things, but we should find ways to be proactively resilient. And I see that to be proactively resilient, it leads to innovative actions. It leads to the ability of managing risks. It leads to predicting and reacting to trends, and also to be open-minded as an organization. And I think the proactiveness in the best case, it will lead to the point that an organization or a company will be a market leader, or this kind of organization that lies like paving the way for others to follow. But yeah, but my third point here is that when we are talking about companies, micro companies or small companies, we oftentimes face the fact that they have the lack of time, lack of resources, lack of money, lack of know-how. So as business developers and organizations that support and help the companies, the local companies. We should find ways to like collect them together, build the networks together, support each other, but also to provide tools and opportunities to help them to tackle the lack of time, lack of money, and lack of know-how. So this is like a challenge for us, but I think that for example, this LookUP project is one good example how that we can, like, for example, through projects, collect companies to come together and offer them help to become more resilient. But from my side, I want to thank you all for your presentations, and it was an interesting evening with you guys. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Anna-Riitta. And
Thank you.
thank you all for participating, and thank you, presentators. It has been a pleasure for me to hear all the expertise that you have. And for now, I will say good night, and I'm looking forward next week and hearing from all of your project works. So, thank you once again, and have a nice evening.
Thank you. Have a nice
Thank you
evening.
so much.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.